welcome to this lesson on the Android Studio and Eclipse IDEs. In this lesson, we will cover the two most popular IDEs, or integrated development environments, for developing applications in Android. We will look at each of the IDEs and the special features they offer. We will also review some of the more popular shortcuts for these IDEs to help you quickly and effectively develop your Android applications. Android Studio is an IDE based off of the JetBrains IntelliJ IDEA software. Android Studio was announced in May of 2013 at the Google I/O conference. It was available as an early access preview at that time. Android Studio entered the beta stage in June 2014, and in December 2014 was released as a stable build starting from version 1.0. Android Studio is specifically designed for Android development and has been made available for use on Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux. With Android Studio, Google aimed to develop an IDE with the needs of the Android developers in mind. The development of the IDE is also open source, allowing for everyone to view the source code and even apply to contribute to the IDE. Android Studio offers a wide array of new and improved features for Android development. This includes an improved WYSIWYG editor for building UI for our applications. This specialized editor has been built to optimize development for multiple screen sizes, resolutions, and proportions, allowing us to design UI for everything from smartphones and tablets to apps running on smartwatches and even cars. With Android Studio, we are introduced to the Gradle-based build system, which features components allowing us to customize, configure, and extend the build process. Create multiple APKs for your application with different features using the same project and modules, and reuse code and resources across source sets. In Android Studio, we also have an improved inspection tool, which is called Lint. Lint has improved features including checks for fragment injection, Gradle plugin version SDK compatibility, where property assignments no longer work as expected, and much, much more. When starting a project in Android Studio, there is a selection of pre-configured templates that can be used for a quick jump start into a project. These templates come with pre-constructed components like login screens and settings screens. Using the built-in templates can allow for quick development using a solid, well-constructed base. Once we have finished developing our application, Android Studio will give us the tools we need to build and sign the application for later distribution via the Google Playstore. Android Studio also includes the ability to use ProGuard tool, which shrinks, optimizes, and obfuscates your code by removing unused code, renaming classes, fields, and methods with systematically obscure names. This creates a smaller APK and makes it much harder for others to reverse engineer your application. With the release of Android Studio 1.0, Android Studio is now the official IDE, or integrated development environment, for developing applications, libraries, and components for the Android operating system. Once we start our project, there are some useful key binding shortcuts that will allow for easier and quicker development. Let's first take a look at the commands when running Android Studio on Windows and Linux. Using the key combination of Ctrl, Shift, and A, we can open the command lookup prompt. This allows us to easily search and find other useful commands for the Android Studio IDE. One of the powerful aspects of the Android Studio IDE is its ability to find fixes for issues in our code, like lack of imports, missing semicolons, and other typos in our code. When Android Studio highlights a line or section of code in red, signifying that it has found an issue, we can select a part or all of this problematic area and use the key combination of Alt and Enter to request a quick fix from Android Studio, or a suggestion from Android Studio on options for a quick fix. When our code gets a little messy, we can use the key combination of Control and Alt and L to have Android Studio format our code for a more readable and cleaner format and indentations. Sometimes when developing for Android, we may not remember exactly the definition of a class or method. So we can select that class or method and use the key combination of Control and Q in order to see the associated documentation. In case we might forget what parameters a specific method call might require, we can select that method call and use the key combination of Control and P in order to show the parameters from the method signature. A common practice for accessing member variables is to create a getter and setter method for accessing those members. The key combination of Alt and Insert will easily allow us to create getters and setters and other common methods. Then we can jump into the getter and setter by using the F4 shortcut, which jumps to the source of a method. When we have excess code that needs simple deletion, the key combination of Control and Y will delete the current cursor line or all selected lines of code if more than one are selected. In case we lost place of one of our variables or methods, the shortcut Control and Alt and Shift and N will open up a search dialog to let us search for symbols by name. Then we can move on to building our project. The key combination of Control and F9 builds and compiles our project, or we can use the key combination of Shift and F10 to build and then run our application on a device or emulator. Sometimes we need a better look, so we can toggle the visibility of the project structure view on the left pane of the editor by using the key combination of Alt and 1. If we want to switch through the tabs of our editor, we can use the key combinations of Alt and right arrow or Alt and left arrow to span through them without having to even touch our mouse. When actually running our application in debug mode, we can utilize the expression evaluator with the key combination of Alt and F8 in order to evaluate expressions during a debug session. And finally, when editing and developing code, we can use the Control key and the left mouse button to quickly drill down into that method or class definition. When running Android Studio on OS X instead of Windows or Linux, we have a few different key bindings for certain commands. Option and Command and L for reformatting code, F1 for showing documents, Command and N for generating methods, Command and down arrow for jumping to a source, Command and backspace for deleting a line or lines, Option and Command and O for searching for a symbol by name, Command and F9 for building and compiling, Control and R for building and running, Command and 1 for toggling the project structure view visibility, Control and left arrow or Control and right arrow to navigate between editor tabs, Alt and F8 to evaluate an expression, and finally Command and mouse click to drill down into a method declaration or class definition. In order to install Android Studio on your machine, you'll need to ensure that your system fulfills requirements for acceptable operating system, which are listed here, and that you have at least 2 GB of RAM, but at least 4 GB of RAM is recommended on your system. You'll also have to have at least 400 MB of space on your system hard disk, with another 1 GB of hard disk space for the Android SDK. A screen with a minimum resolution of 1280 by 800 and the Java Development Kit 7 installed and associated symbols and paths declared will also be required. Then you can download Android Studio from http://developer.android.com/sdk/index.html. Another popular IDE for developing applications for Android devices is Eclipse using the ADT or Android Development Tools plugin. Unfortunately, the ADT plugin is no longer in active development since Android Studio has been declared as the official development environment for Android development. ADT was originally created to be added to the popular Eclipse Java IDE in order to add the tools and libraries needed for developing and building applications for Android. Eclipse with the ADT plugin includes its own WYSIWYG editor, the Ant build system, partial lint tools and checks, and the ability to easily create and develop NDK or native development kit projects, which allow for creating projects that integrate native or C++ code into your Android applications. In Eclipse, like in Android Studio, there are some useful keyboard shortcuts that can allow us to optimize our development. We can open up the Quick Access dialog by using a key combination of Control and 3. To search the resources of our workspace, we can use a combination of Control and Shift and R. To search the Java type classes, we use the shortcut of Control and Shift and T. Eclipse uses perspectives to define a group of views for different types of development. For instance, a debug perspective for debugging and a Java perspective for development and viewing code samples more easily. To easily swap between perspectives, we can use the shortcut Control and F8. In order to perform a more general search, we can use the Control and H key combination. In a specific perspective, With code editor views, we can return to a previous code editor view by using the Alt and left arrow key combination. To activate code completion suggestions in Eclipse, we use the Control and Space key combination. When our code gets a little messy, we can simply select it all and use the Control and I key combination to fix indentation, or the Control and Shift and F key combination to auto-format selected code. When we have excess lines of code, we can easily delete one or more lines with the Control and D key combination. For an easy rename of a class or object, we can select that item and use the key combination of Alt and Shift and R to rename that item. In order to use Eclipse with the ADT plugin, we first need the required JDK 7 and to download and install Eclipse. After Eclipse is installed, we need to open the Help menu and select Install New Software. In the Work With field, we need to add the repository for the ADT plugin, which is https://dl-ssl.google.com/android/eclipse. Once the repository is added, we should see it in the Available Software dialog, and we need to select the checkbox next to the developer tools and any additional tools we would like to install. Clicking Next will show us the tools to download and the dependencies, and we will click Next again. We will then arrive at the Review License screen, where we can accept the terms and click Finish to install the plugin. This concludes our lesson on Android Studio and Eclipse with the ADT plugin IDEs. Join us in our next lesson, where we'll take a closer look at using Android Studio and create our first Hello World application.